You have been aggressively brainwashed to believe that you need to be completely healed to manifest millions of dollars. The spiritual industry tells you that your childhood trauma, your broken inner child, and your past emotional mistakes are currently blocking your wealth. I'm going to tell you a brutal, highly offensive truth that will instantly take 100 pounds of pressure off your chest right now. You absolutely do not need to be healed to become a multimillionaire. In fact, the obsessive, exhausting desire to fix your past is the exact mathematical reason why you are currently broke. Today, I am going to use the uncompromising teachings of Neville Goddard to permanently destroy the massive scam of the healing industry. I will logically prove to you exactly why trying to purify yourself is a disgusting insult to your own imagination, and I will show you how to successfully assume your millions of dollars today, exactly as broken and messy as you currently are. If you are finally sick and tired of feeling like a damaged project, take a brief moment to subscribe to this channel right now. Your exhausting era of trying to heal yourself dies today, and your era of absolute dominion begins in this exact microsecond. We must immediately perform a violent, logical autopsy on the massive lie of inner work. I want you to look at the actual, physical, three-dimensional world around you with complete psychopathic objectivity. I want you to look at the people who actually possess hundreds of millions of dollars. Look at the billionaires, the massive corporate executives, and the historical conquerors of this planet. Do you honestly believe that these incredibly wealthy people sit in their bedrooms crying over their inner child? Look at the actual billionaires of this world. Do you honestly think they have perfectly healed nervous systems and completely pure, enlightened souls? Absolutely not. They did not need to be healed to manifest millions, and neither do you. Massive wealth is not a cosmic reward for emotional purity. You do not need a perfect psychological medical record to get rich, because the universe only responds to your assumption. If you study the most financially successful people on Earth, you will immediately discover that many of them have massive, terrifying traumas. They have deep psychological insecurities, they have incredibly toxic personality traits, and they have pasts filled with massive failures and intense emotional pain. Yet, despite being completely unhealed and psychologically messy, they have successfully materialized massive financial empires. Why does this happen? Why does the universe give millions of dollars to people who have absolutely refused to do their spiritual inner work, while you are meditating for 3 hours a day, reading every self-help book on the market, and still struggling to pay your basic electric bill? The answer to this question will completely rewrite your understanding of reality. It is because the quantum field absolutely does not care about your emotional trauma. The infinite universe does not possess a moral compass. The banking system does not check your spiritual purity before it allows a deposit to clear. Massive wealth is not a trophy handed out to the person who did the most therapy. Wealth is simply a blind, automatic, and mechanical reflection of your dominant assumption. The universe is a flawless mirror, and the mirror only reflects one thing, which is the identity you are actively assuming in the present moment. This brings us to the catastrophic failure of the healing journey. I want you to deeply analyze the exact psychological state you are occupying when you wake up in the morning and decide to do your inner work. When you sit down with your journal to analyze your financial trauma, what is the fundamental assumption you are making about yourself? You are loudly declaring to the universe, "I am a broken person." You are assuming the identity of a damaged victim who is not currently worthy of receiving wealth. You are telling your subconscious mind that there is something deeply wrong with you and that you must go on a long, exhausting journey to eventually become good enough for the money. Because the law of assumption is a perfect mathematical law of physics, the mirror of the universe instantly catches the reflection of your broken identity. The universe says, "You have assumed the state of a person who needs to be healed. Therefore, I will meticulously organize your three-dimensional reality to ensure that you continue to have massive financial problems, so you can continue to experience the exhausting process of trying to heal them." Do you understand the massive trap you are caught in? The very act of trying to heal yourself mathematically guarantees that you will remain sick. The universe will permanently keep you completely broke, just so you can keep buying more therapy sessions, reading more books about trauma, and writing more sad stories in your journal. You have turned healing into your entire identity. You are perfectly manifesting the state of being a spiritual patient, and the universe is simply providing you with an endless supply of diseases to cure. Neville Goddard completely despised this pathetic, exhausting approach to human transformation. Neville did not teach his students to spend years analyzing their past mistakes. He did not tell them to dig into their childhood memories to find the root cause of their poverty. Neville Goddard was a master of psychopathic, uncompromising psychological detachment. His ultimate teaching regarding your past identity can be summarized in one brutal, majestic command. He simply said, "Let the old man die." In the teachings of Neville Goddard, the old man represents your current three-dimensional identity. The old man is the version of you that is completely broke. The old man is the version of you that has financial trauma, the version of you that was rejected, and the version of you that is constantly terrified of the future. The modern spiritual community tells you to take the old man to therapy. They tell you to sit the old man down on a comfortable couch, hold his hand and ask him why he is so sad. They tell you to negotiate with the old man, compromise with him, and slowly try to convince him to become wealthy over a period of 10 years. This is completely insane, and it is a massive insult to your divine power. Neville Goddard taught that you do not negotiate with the old man. You do not try to fix the old man, because the old man is a fundamentally flawed state of consciousness that is entirely incompatible with massive wealth. You cannot take your broken, poverty-stricken identity and simply put a new suit of wealth over it. If you want to force the universe to hand you millions of dollars, you must aggressively and permanently abandon the old identity. You must let it completely die in the dark graveyard of your own imagination. I want you to deeply imagine that you are a highly skilled surgeon, and your old broke identity is a corpse lying on a metal table in front of you. Every single time you open your journal to write about your past traumas, every single time you talk to your friends about how hard your life has been, and every single time you try to heal the old version of you, you are literally performing a psychological autopsy on a dead body. You are taking a sharp knife, cutting open the corpse of your past, and desperately digging through the dead organs, trying to find out exactly why it died. It is a disgusting, pointless, and incredibly exhausting waste of your divine energy. The corpse is dead. The past does not actually exist anywhere in the physical universe. The past only exists as a temporary electrical signal currently firing in your human brain. When you focus your attention on the past to heal it, you are violently dragging a dead body into your present reality, pumping it full of the life force of your own attention and forcing the universe to recreate that exact same dead reality in your future. The Master Manifestor absolutely refuses to perform CPR on a corpse. The Master Manifestor simply drops the medical tools, walks completely out of the morgue, and never looks back. You must realize that you are not a physical body that is chained to a timeline of painful events. You are formless, infinite, omnipresent consciousness. You are the supreme, operant power of the entire cosmos, currently wearing a temporary human costume. As infinite consciousness, you have the terrifying, godlike ability to completely drop one human costume and instantly put on an entirely new one, without bringing any of the dirt, trauma, or history from the old costume with you. You must stop treating your psychological transformation like a massive, exhausting renovation project. If you live in a disgusting, rotting, falling apart wooden shack, you do not spend 10 years trying to glue the broken pieces of wood back together. You do not hire a therapist to help you understand why the roof is leaking. You simply pack your bags, you walk out the front door, and you move into a brand new, pristine, flawless, multi-million-dollar mansion. The transition from massive poverty to massive wealth does not require time, it does not require healing, and it absolutely does not require you to be a perfect human being. It simply requires you to have the psychopathic arrogance to turn your back on your old story. The millions of dollars are waiting for you right now in the parallel reality of the God state. The wealth does not care if you had a hard childhood. The wealth does not care if you made terrible financial decisions yesterday. The wealth only responds to the absolute, undeniable command of your present tense assumption. When you boldly assume the state of the multimillionaire, you instantly inherit the future of the multimillionaire, and the past of the broken victim is instantly erased from your energetic signature. You do not need to be fixed because you were never actually broken. You are simply a supreme, infinite creator who accidentally fell asleep and had a terrifying nightmare about being a helpless human victim. Today, right now, in this exact millisecond, the nightmare is completely over. It is time to drop the pathetic illusion of the healing journey, leave the dead old man in the grave, and confidently take your rightful seat on the throne of your massive financial empire. We must now aggressively transition our focus to the exact physical and psychological mechanics of abandoning the old identity. To fully understand how to completely walk away from your broken past without ever looking back, I want you to deeply visualize your entire three-dimensional reality as a massive, infinite physical neighborhood. In this infinite neighborhood, there are millions of different houses, and every single house represents a completely different state of consciousness. Right now, because you are constantly struggling with money, you are currently living inside a disgusting, rotting, falling apart wooden shack. The roof is completely caved in, the windows are broken, the floor is covered in dirt, and the entire structure is collapsing around you. This terrible wooden shack is your current physical reality. It is your empty bank account, your massive credit card debt, your miserable job, and your constant state of terrifying financial anxiety. When you participate in the modern spiritual culture of doing endless inner work, you are essentially acting like a completely insane homeowner. You hire a therapist, you hire a shadow work coach, and you hire an energy healer to come into your disgusting wooden shack and help you figure out exactly why the house is falling apart. You sit in the dirt with your journal, and you spend 8 years aggressively analyzing the broken pieces of wood. You try to figure out if your mother broke the window, or if your childhood trauma caused the roof to collapse. You spend all of your physical energy, all of your money, and all of your divine attention trying to perfectly understand the absolute tragedy of the broken shack. You think that if you can just understand why the house is broken, it will magically turn into a mansion. But the infinite universe does not work like that. The quantum field is looking at you sitting in the dirt, completely obsessed with the broken house, and the mirror of reality has absolutely no choice but to keep the house broken so you can continue your exhausting investigation. Neville Goddard looked at this pathetic situation and delivered the most liberating psychopathic instruction in the history of human manifestation. He essentially told his students to completely stop analyzing the broken pieces of wood. He told them to drop their tools, stop trying to fix the unfixable, completely ignore the falling roof, and simply walk out the front door. You do not need to understand your past to change your future. Directly across the street from your rotting wooden shack, there is a massive, pristine, flawless, multi-million-dollar mansion made of solid gold and white marble. This massive mansion is the state of the wealthy creator. It is the God state. It already exists right now, in this exact microsecond, fully constructed and completely ready for you to move in. The doors are unlocked, the bank accounts are full, and the spectacular reality of massive wealth is entirely prepared for your arrival. To become a physical multi-millionaire, you do not pack up the broken pieces of the old shack and carry them with you. You do not bring your childhood trauma into the new mansion. You do not bring your financial mistakes into the new mansion. You simply leave the dead old man in the rotting house. You cross the street with absolute arrogant certainty, and you boldly assume the identity of the person who owns the mansion. But this is exactly where the ultimate, terrifying illusion completely destroys 99% of the human race. I know exactly what happens to you when you try to walk away from your past. You hear my words, you understand the logic perfectly, and you decide that you are finally going to drop the old identity. You mentally walk across the street, you stand in front of the massive mansion of wealth, and you try to boldly assume the state of the multimillionaire. But the exact microsecond you put your hand on the front door of that new identity, your physical body completely and violently attacks you. A massive, sickening wave of panic washes over your entire nervous system. Your physical heart starts pounding against your ribcage like a hammer. Your chest becomes incredibly tight, your throat closes up, your palms start sweating profusely, and your mind is suddenly flooded with terrifying, catastrophic thoughts about your past failures, your current debts, and your massive insecurities. You feel a crushing sense of imposter syndrome, and your logical brain screams at you, telling you that you are a complete fraud and that you are absolutely not allowed to enter the mansion. When this violent physical reaction happens, you make a catastrophic, life-altering psychological mistake. You listen to the fake spiritual gurus. The industry tells you that this massive wave of panic is your unhealed trauma coming back to haunt you. They tell you that the panic is the shadow of your inner child crying out for attention. They tell you that your body is rejecting the wealth because you have deep, subconscious limiting beliefs that need to be cleared with another 5 years of expensive therapy. They convince you that you are haunted by a psychological ghost and that you must run away from the beautiful mansion, run all the way back to the rotting wooden shack, and start journaling about your trauma all over again. I am going to completely obliterate this pathetic lie right now with cold, uncompromising biological science. The terrifying panic you feel when you try to assume the state of massive wealth has absolutely nothing to do with your childhood. It has nothing to do with your spiritual purity, and it is absolutely not a psychological ghost haunting your energetic field. The panic is simply a primitive, mechanical, and entirely predictable biological glitch. Your human body is a highly advanced animal machine, and it is entirely controlled by a primitive alarm system in your brain called the amygdala. The only job your amygdala has is to keep you physically alive, and the only way it knows how to keep you alive is by keeping you in environments that are completely familiar and predictable. Your primitive animal brain absolutely hates the unknown. Because you have spent your entire physical life living in the rotting wooden shack of poverty, your nervous system has become completely chemically addicted to the stress hormones of financial struggle. Your body literally feels safe when you are completely broke because being broke is a known variable. Your biology has memorized the exact chemical signature of surviving paycheck to paycheck. When you suddenly turn your back on your entire past, walk up to the multi-million-dollar mansion, and try to assume the expansive, powerful, and terrifyingly free identity of a wealthy god, your primitive brain does not perceive this as a massive spiritual victory. It perceives this massive, sudden change in identity as a literal, life-threatening danger. Your amygdala looks at the massive wealth and realizes that it is completely unfamiliar. Because it is unfamiliar, the biological alarm instantly sounds. Your brain violently floods your entire bloodstream with toxic amounts of cortisol and adrenaline, forcing your physical body into a massive state of fight or flight. Your nervous system is literally trying to physically force you to drop the new identity and run back to the familiar safety of your broken past. You are not broken. You are not traumatized. You are simply experiencing the terrifying withdrawal symptoms of a physical body that is trying to drag you back to the familiar chemical state of poverty. The spiritual community has completely misdiagnosed a basic biological survival mechanism as a deep, mystical spiritual wound. They have convinced you to spend thousands of dollars trying to heal a ghost that does not actually exist, but you cannot outsmart a dysregulated nervous system with positive affirmations. You cannot simply sit in the new mansion and try to feel wealthy while your physical body is literally screaming that the building is on fire. You cannot successfully assume the God state while your physical vessel is drowning in massive amounts of survival hormones. The quantum mirror is entirely blind, and it will only reflect your dominant physical and psychological frequency. If your mind is trying to declare wealth, but your physical body is vibrating with the absolute terror of a hunted animal, the universe will immediately reflect the terror. The bridge of incidents will collapse, and you will manifest absolutely nothing but more physical panic. If you want to permanently occupy the massive mansion of wealth, if you want to turn your back on your past forever without your body violently attacking you, you must bypass your logical, terrified mind and manually hack your biological hardware. You must forcefully turn off the survival alarm inside your primitive nervous system. You must prove to your physical animal body that the new identity is completely safe. Because this massive biological illusion is the exact trap that keeps the entire spiritual community endlessly digging through their past, and because I absolutely refuse to let you remain a helpless slave to your own primitive brain, I have provided the exact, uncompromising physical solution for you. I want you to pause this audio right now and look directly below this video, in the pinned comment section. I have left a highly specific, vital, and incredibly powerful physical protocol there for you. This is not a manifestation technique. It is not a shadow work prompt, and it is absolutely not a therapy exercise. It is a pure mechanical biological override code. It is entirely designed to instantly bypass your panicked logical mind, completely regulate your terrified nervous system, and aggressively flush the horrifying survival hormones entirely out of your physical bloodstream. It literally forces your physical cells to turn off the alarm, drop the terrifying illusion of trauma, and enter a state of undeniable, deep physical safety. Go to the pinned comment right now, use this protocol to manually turn off your biological radar, and then come right back here to permanently claim your absolute dominion over the universe. When your nervous system is finally completely calm, when the physical panic has entirely evaporated from your bloodstream, and your heart is beating at a slow, powerful, relaxed rhythm, you will finally understand the absolute comedy of the healing journey. You will realize that the massive monster you were terrified of was just a biological shadow on the wall. With a completely regulated nervous system, you can finally walk through the massive front doors of the wealthy mansion without a single drop of fear. You can sit on the throne of your new identity, look around at your massive financial empire, and feel absolutely nothing but cold, psychopathic boredom and heavy, arrogant certainty. The old wooden shack of your past completely loses its emotional grip on your consciousness. You do not hate your past. You do not resent the people who hurt you, and you do not feel the pathetic urge to forgive them in a long emotional therapy session. You simply look back at the old version of yourself, the terrified, broken victim who was constantly struggling to survive, and you feel complete, total, and absolute apathy. The old man is completely dead to you. You withdraw your divine attention entirely away from the history of your human costume, and you pour 100% of your supreme life force directly into the present assumption of your massive wealth. You realize that the universe is not asking you to be perfect. The universe is not waiting for you to finish your inner work. The universe is a blind, mechanical, infinite servant that is completely ready to hand you millions of dollars. The exact microsecond you have the biological and psychological courage to simply declare that the money is already yours. We must now enter the final, most uncompromising and absolute psychological chamber of this massive $5,000 masterclass. We have completely destroyed the toxic, multi-million-dollar industry of inner work, and we have mathematically proven that your physical body is simply experiencing a primitive biological glitch when you try to leave your broken past behind. You have successfully hacked your terrified nervous system. You have stepped completely out of the rotting wooden shack of your old identity, and you have confidently walked into the flawless, multi-million-dollar mansion of the God state. But to completely solidify your absolute dominance over the physical matrix, and to ensure that you never accidentally wander back into the dark graveyard of your past traumas, you must cultivate the ultimate psychological weapon. I call this highly advanced weapon psychopathic amnesia. Society has completely brainwashed you to believe that your personal history is the most important part of your human identity. They tell you to constantly honor your struggles, to remember exactly where you came from, and to wear your past financial pain like a badge of honor. They tell you that your trauma makes you strong, and that your past mistakes are valuable lessons that you must never forget. I'm going to tell you a brutal psychopathic truth that will completely sever your emotional attachment to your past forever. Honoring your struggles is the exact psychological poison that keeps you trapped in the endless cycle of poverty. If you constantly talk about how hard your life has been, you are actively breathing life into a dead corpse. When you fully install psychopathic amnesia into your subconscious mind, you develop a cold, arrogant, and completely detached relationship with your own physical history. I want you to imagine that an old friend comes up to you in the physical world and they start talking about the massive financial mistakes you made 5 years ago. They remind you of the time you were completely broke, the time you lost your job, or the time you failed miserably. The amateur, the person who is still obsessed with healing, instantly gets defensive. The amateur tries to explain themselves. They feel a massive wave of guilt, and they immediately get dragged right back into the emotional state of the broken victim. But when you possess psychopathic amnesia, you do not get defensive. You look at your old friend with the heavy, unbothered apathy of a supreme creator, and you simply do not recognize the person they are talking about. You silently declare to yourself, that pathetic, broke human being they are describing is completely dead. That character was entirely written out of the script, and I am now playing a completely different role on a completely different stage. You must treat your past poverty exactly like a terribly boring movie that you watched 10 years ago and completely forgot the entire plot to. You have absolutely no emotional reaction to it because it has absolutely nothing to do with the multi-billionaire sitting on the throne today. This brings us directly to the most misunderstood, heavily romanticized, and completely butchered spiritual concept in the entire world. I am talking about the concept of forgiveness. The fake spiritual gurus and the modern therapists tell you that to manifest millions of dollars, You must go on a long, agonizing, emotional journey to forgive everyone who has ever hurt you. They tell you to write long letters to the people who betrayed you, cry over the immense pain they caused, and aggressively try to send them love and light from your heart. Neville Goddard completely despised this exhausting, dramatic, and pathetic approach to human transformation. Neville taught that true forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with emotion, it has nothing to do with crying, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the other person. In the uncompromising physics of the law of assumption, true forgiveness is simply the absolute, psychopathic withdrawal of your divine attention. To truly forgive your past simply means to completely and permanently forget your past. It means you take your massive, life-giving attention, which is the only active, creative power in the entire quantum field, and you aggressively remove it from the old state of consciousness. You do not send love to the people who hurt you, because sending them love requires you to actively focus your attention on the fact that they hurt you in the first place. By focusing on the betrayal, you are commanding the quantum mirror to keep the energy of betrayal alive in your physical reality. Instead, you simply drop them from your mind entirely. You starve the old reality of its life force. When you completely forget your financial trauma, when you completely forget the toxic people from your past, and when you completely forget the pathetic version of yourself that used to struggle to survive, you have successfully performed the ultimate act of divine forgiveness. The old reality instantly collapses into dust because you are no longer holding its physical atoms together with your terrifying, godlike observation. You must completely absorb the massive, unapologetic permission that I am handing to you right now in this exact microsecond. You absolutely do not need to be a perfect, morally flawless, completely healed human being to become a multi-millionaire. The entire spiritual community is hopelessly trapped in the pathetic illusion of earning their wealth through good behavior. They honestly think the infinite universe is a giant invisible judge sitting on a cloud in the sky, checking their energetic credit score and evaluating their childhood trauma before approving their manifestation. The universe does not judge you. The universe is a blind, mechanical, infinite servant that mathematically reflects your active assumption, regardless of how messy your human costume currently is. There are thousands of incredibly wealthy, highly successful people on this planet right now who are completely chaotic, highly flawed, and deeply imperfect. They have terrible habits, they make massive emotional mistakes, and they have absolutely zero interest in healing their inner child. Yet the universe continuously hands them millions of dollars effortlessly, simply because they have the psychopathic arrogance to assume that they are wealthy. They do not ask for permission to be rich. They simply take the wealth. You must completely stop apologizing for your current flaws. You must immediately stop waiting for the perfect, magical moment when you finally feel entirely healed, because that perfect moment absolutely does not exist. The only true reality is this exact millisecond. You are an infinite, limitless, omnipresent creator, currently projecting a temporary, highly flawed human costume. The costume does not need to be perfectly clean for you to put the crown on your head. If you have absorbed the uncompromising, heavy frequency of this massive $5,000 transmission, your psychological architecture has been permanently and violently rewritten. You can never go back to the exhausting, pathetic treadmill of the healing journey. You can never go back to analyzing your childhood trauma in a journal, and you can never go back to believing that you are a broken victim who desperately needs to be fixed. You have completely destroyed the massive, expensive illusion of inner work. You have successfully bypassed the terrifying biological trap of your primitive nervous system, and you have forcefully adopted the psychopathic amnesia of the Supreme Creator. You finally understand that the infinite universe is absolutely not waiting for you to heal. The universe is waiting for you to command, but to permanently lock this terrifying, untouchable identity into the physical matrix of your three-dimensional reality, and to prove to your own nervous system that you have officially abandoned the graveyard of your past forever, you must take one final, irreversible action. You must issue a physical command that completely shatters the illusion of the old man. I want you to step fully into the quiet, motionless, crushing power of the true monarch. I want you to scroll down to the comments section directly below this video. I want you to type these exact words with the absolute, terrifying certainty of a supreme creator who is simply stating a fundamental, undeniable law of physics. Do not type it with hope. Do not type it with sadness for the past. Type it with the heavy, unbothered apathy of a God who has completely forgotten their entire human history. Type, I don't need to be healed. I assume my millions. Let the physical movement of your fingers typing those words be the absolute final moment you ever wait for perfection to claim your wealth. Make the ultimate declaration right now. I don't need to be healed. I assume my millions. The massive illusion of the healing journey is completely destroyed. The biological panic is permanently turned off. The rotting wooden shack is burned to the ground, and your massive financial empire is mathematically guaranteed. Go sit in the pristine, flawless mansion of your new identity, cross your arms, and enjoy the spectacular wealth that your beautiful psychopathic assumption has already forced into physical existence.